Welcome everyone. We're here today to discuss the changing IP landscape and the rise of the hybrid IP portfolio management model. My name's Phil Myers. I'm a commercial editor at Managing IP, and I'll be hosting this webinar. Thanks for joining us. IP portfolios can become extremely time intensive as they grow, particularly when they cross international borders. Eventually, internal resources can become stretched to the point where they spend more time simply maintaining existing rights than working on the development of new ones. Sometimes it can be helpful to have some expertise available to assist with high workloads, or to support innovation and ideas, or to establish yourself in new markets and sectors without having to invest significant costs into training up an in-house team. Hybrid IP portfolio management is a growing area, encompassing everything from short-term or project-specific IP development to the renewal of IP rights, to invoice management, and even temporary in-house paralegals and attorneys. With that in mind, we're joined today by Karin Scharving-Schervelt, Bettina Hellerman, and Agatha Bergman from Zacco. Over the first 45 minutes, Karin, Bettina, and Agatha will share their insights on hybrid portfolio management. We'll then have time for a 15-minute Q&A, so do take the opportunity to ask questions by using the button below. We'd love to hear from you. So, Karin is the Director of Strategic Alliances at Zacco. She has been part of some of the most well-known organisations within the IP marketplace. She is focused on identifying, embracing and promoting change across the wider IP space, and her extensive knowledge, alongside a reputation for business development and building strategic alliances, has placed her at the forefront of Zacco's ongoing expansion plans. Bettina is the Director of IP Services and Quality at Zacco. She is an experienced IP strategist, and her expertise and insights, acquired over a successful career in IP management, process development and quality assurance, has given her the skills required to quickly pinpoint the portfolio requirements and priorities of Zacco's clients. She is also responsible for the development and implementation of Zacco's quality management systems. Agatha is a relationship manager at Zacco. She is an experienced corporate IP specialist with a background in both in-house and private practice, as well as having project management expertise in IP automation and software solutions. She is the account manager for some of Zacco's global clients, as well as playing a central role in the management and delivery of Zacco's IP and other related services. On to Zacco itself. Zacco is part of the OPSEC group and operates as a true European full-service IP firm with a 360-degree approach to intellectual property. This means that it provides guidance and assistance throughout the entire IP lifecycle, from development to the maintenance and enforcement of IP rights across all current and emerging fields of technology. It works in the physical and digital spaces and can advise on IP transactions such as licensing or IP and IT due diligence during acquisitions and other elements of wider IP portfolio management. This means it is well placed to explore and explain the implications, benefits, and potential pitfalls of a hybrid IP portfolio management model. Finally, some housekeeping. The recording of this webinar will be available to watch on demand on the MIP website at managingip.com, so do share the link with colleagues who might be interested. And if you experience any technical difficulties, just refresh your window and this should correct it. So I'd like to start by asking Karin, could you give us a bit of an introduction into why the hybrid model has developed over time?
Yes, I would like to start by saying that we all know, the whole crowd and how important IP is. I think that the last couple of years, it has become rather complex though. We have moved from the traditional IP, drafting patent application, filing patent applications and so on. Now we need to protect ourselves not only in the physical world, but also in the cyber world, so offline and online. And this requires us to look out for counterfeited goods at a different website to be able to close these down. We need to secure our assets with authentication like tags, holograms, etc. It is a big, new and complex world. And there are so many new data-driven companies growing and coming. Before you could see and guess where your competition was coming from. Nowadays you cannot. I mean, there are examples, like one of the world's biggest transport companies, Uber. They don't even own their own cars, but they have developed this unique technical platform where they connect the driver to the rider, and they have built a super strong brand, and they have completely changed and revolutionized the transport industry. And the same could be said from Airbnb. They have they have really revolutionized the hospitality industry. They don't even own a hotel. Facebook, another example, a very strong brand and trademark. They are a big media player and they don't even produce their own content. We have, of course, Tesla, these amazing cars, but they are a software company. So this is growing and becoming more complex, and you need to protect yourself in all kinds of aspects. And this put a strength on the IP departments, of course, because we are also at the same time enduring some financial cumbersome times. So you have all these new things to manage and to think about at the same time as you have a limited budget. And you can never jeopardize on quality. So we as service provider or IP law firms, we need to find new models, ways to work to help our clients with this. And I think that is kind of the background to the development of the hybrid approach.
Yeah. And talking about this change in the IP, in where you have your competitors in IP in general, you can say that as an in-house IP department, you need to have more skills nowadays, and it can be very difficult, and it can be very costly if you are to have all these skills in-house. And this is actually where the hybrid model comes in, because it's if you compare to traditional outsourcing, where you decided, okay, I want to outsource my annuity payments for cost reasons. I don't want to do the drafting now. You have much more services that you need to look at as an IP responsible within an organization. So the hybrid model is a outsourcing model where you can adapt the services to your needs. It can differ from one day to the other. You might have a project. So it's actually a complement to the in-house resources, and of course it can be tailored to any budget, to any size of portfolio. And the bottom line is that with the right partner, it should actually improve the quality of your portfolio.
Okay. Thanks, Bettina. It's interesting that clearly has wide applicability, and you've established the issues in the space at the moment. So, what would you think is most important when considering an IP partner?
Well, there are many things you have to look at. Quality. I think is the first one, and experience and knowledge. And these are hard things to measure, but we help our clients to monitor or manage their IP portfolio all over the globe. And anyone could pay a renewal, or anyone can docket a term in the software or what have you. But if you handle thousands of these things every week, you get an experience. You develop different tools, validation tools, you get efficient processes, etc. Of course, that helps you bring the quality up, and in compare, if you have just a few cases a week, for example, there's a big difference. And also, I think that you have to look at the staff, how you developed training activities, the competence sharing, and so on over the globe, and making sure that you're really on top of everything. As being a law firm, it is of course easier because you can maybe foresee a bit what a legislation change or new requirements how that will affect your clients, and you could be on the forefront of that to help them. But of course, since we are maneuvering in all jurisdictions, it's impossible to have an office or a presence in all jurisdictions. So you need to work with a global agent network. We do, and all of the providers in the business or IP law firms, they do. But you also need to make sure that the ones you're working with reaches the same level of quality that you do. And this is super important that you have the qualification or this process in place. And you have to think about things like, we are entrusted with very much confidential data. And these data needs to be stored in systems and software. And we have seen the last couple of years in the world today that there are hacker attacks, there are hacking attacks, there are ransom software, etc. So you really need to be sure that you keep this in a safe place. And also that the companies we work with, the global agent networks, also are entrusted with our clients' confidential data, and that they do handle that with due care as well. And this has actually been a big thing for Zacco, because we do offer these kind of services like penetration tests on software or secure development. And we do offer that not only to ourselves, but also as a service to other IP law firms, because this is crucial. This is crucial, and this is something if I were a client, I would certainly look at those parameters as well when I chose a provider. And the last thing I would like to point out that is, we need to help the clients fill out the gaps. And as I said initially, the world is complex, the IP world is complex. You need to be able to monitor websites for counterfeited goods. You need to do custom seizures or help your client draft license agreement, because you need to enforce and you need to monetize these IP rights, because they are not as strong, of course, if you don't use it in the correct way, if you don't enforce your rights, or if you don't make sure that you earn money on them. I mean, the potential, it could be so much bigger if you really do it. So
it's a lost.
Yeah, so exactly. So
opportunity
to find one provider that can help you with the whole process, from that is something I would look at. And I do understand that if you're a small law firm or a small provider, it's not easy to have all these services. But once and again, we partner up with the many law firms and the OPSEC security to make sure that we can fill the gaps for the industry clients, because it is lifting the whole, we have the same interest, I think, in this regard.
I can just add on the quality part, kind, that I think that quality is not, it's a difficult, I mean, it's not the same thing to anyone. And as a provider, it's very important that you have a dialogue with your potential new client, and that you understand and what is quality in this specific situation. Because, I mean, translations is maybe an easy example. So if you have a translation that you need for legal purposes, and it's like your protection of your invention, it's quality is one thing. If then, on the other hand, you have a text where you just need to adjust, you need to understand the content. Is this important or not? Then it's maybe just a summary that you need. It's not. You don't need your provider to spend hours and hours on a full translation. And this, I think, can be copied into everything, into IP, that you need to understand what is it exactly that in this specific situation is quality to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
so it's all about,
I agree.
So it's all about tailoring the service to the particular client, by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're really getting a feel for the scope of the challenge as well, and how many different areas it covers. In terms of you mentioned there changing national legislation and understanding the implications there. What do you mean by that?
So, as everyone in this seminar probably knows, in IP, legislation is changing in different countries. All times, I would say there is some country changing something that you then need to implement and make sure that you understand the full implication of this change. And I actually have a very recent example with the coming into force of the UPC here in June, where it has been, I would say, patent holders have faced a double trouble, you can say, on this, because on one side you needed as a patent holder to understand and to make a decision, what is our strategy, both on our existing EP patents, but also going forward. How will we what will we vote for here? Will we go the traditional way or will we go the UP way? And so that's the strategic part of it. And then you have the more practical implementation of it, where if any one of you here in this seminar has been trying to do all the practical stuff, it has been really, really troublesome. Not only the target has changed, and until very late, it was difficult to understand exactly how it worked, and then the system broke down. So very, very troublesome. And I mean, we're not there yet. We still have the request for UP unitary patent that we need to start filing. We have the part with the translation. Is it good enough to have a machine translation? Will they accept that? What if we want to correct the translation, etc., etc. And I mean, even whenever you have 2 EP patents or you have 200,000 EP patents, it's the same work you need to do. So this is, I think, a typical situation where part of it is a one-time thing. So it could make sense for you not to spend time on understanding, but just giving it in a hybrid model. And so I think that's the recent example I can come up with.
Yeah, and that really shows how cumbersome this area is. And if you're a small corporate or you're a small IP law firm, how possibly could you keep track of all this?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel grateful that you've given us your time today, given the challenges that we're facing here. We've certainly had a lot of material on the UPC on managing IP recently as well, so I understand. So in terms of addressing these challenges, what other benefits would a hybrid model offer?
Yeah, as we have mentioned before, both Karin and Bettina mentioned before, that the business is changing, and we can see more and more of our clients that incorporate IP in their general company strategy, of course. I mean, before there was maybe one patent and they only had the solution and it was all they needed. But nowadays, everything in the world changing, everything becoming more digitalized, there are other types of IP that also is a huge asset to the company, of course. I mean, like know-how, domain names, trademarks, and things like that. And that leads me into what I think is most important with the hybrid model, of course. It's, of course, the understanding of the company. And I see that as a 3-step thing. The first thing, of course, is that we need to understand what kind of product and what kind of services do our clients offer. We need to understand what they want to protect. And also the second step would be to get a very, very good feeling of and understand their current IP portfolio, and then also how they can expand it and make it even better, of course. And the third step in a hybrid model is to understand the line of decision makers in the company. We need to understand who is taking the decisions. And then once we have all that knowledge together, we can customize a better a solution and suggestion for the client with a hybrid model, of course. And then this gives control to the client, right? So it makes it, then they have the flexibility to see what areas they would like to have help with, of course. And this would also be more cost efficient for us, because we all know that it's always good to have experts working with what they should do than doing things on their own, of course, which will take much time and more money, of course. Another thing is upsizing and downsizing. We have been talking before about maybe there is an acquisition of a company or something like that. They need to transfer all the rights to their portfolio. That could be one big task, for instance. And another thing with the hybrid model is us working with IP, of course, understand that even if you have one specific patent only, or if you have thousands of patents, there are still deadlines and documentation that you need to post and keep track of in order to make it. So the expertise needs is definitely needed. Me coming from a corporate background, I can also see that it's one thing for the register to write already, but another thing is in the early stage of the IP. I think that it's so important in the corporations. I have helped out with that, setting up workflows and systems and like notes on teams and things like that to make it easier for the management and the decision makers that are not within the IP, working with IP, but still in a good format for them to take any decisions. Yeah, like invention disclosures and keeping track of all the different ideas.
Okay.
And this is very appreciated by the management, of course, to get it presented in a good way.
Always.
I'm sure. And you mentioned the magic words there, cost efficiency.
Yeah.
And in terms of systems and automated tools, just like to focus on that for a second, if we could, Agatha. You talk about AI, for example?
Yeah, I mean, yes, both yes and no. I mean, we now know that there are a lot of tools out there. There are a lot of different checking services, for instance, in public databases where we can compare public data into our system, for instance, to, again, ensure the quality that we can offer them, of course, any monitoring services for infringements or to enforce rights and things like that. Then we also have other tools, like we have developed one tool for our client, IP View, we call it. Here, it's easier for our clients to just log in and keep track of all the different, of the whole portfolio, of course. Then another example or another aspect of it is that I think I want to tell that it's always needed with a human person behind all this. I mean, for instance, you can set up any auto-generated reports, tracking and monitoring your infringements or anything, competitors' rights or something like that. But we have to understand, back to what I was talking about before, is that when having an understanding of the IP portfolio and what the clients needs and things like that, we have a person, our experts, that can help out with writing the algorithm for this report. That is the initial start to get a good output of the report. Once they get the report, then the chief engineers or whoever can have a whiz through the report, but still the output needs to be looked at by an expert to understand, for instance, patent claims. Is this something that is a threat to our portfolio or so? So I think, yeah, wrapping this up means that, of course, we use the tools, which is fantastic, but we also need human eyes on this.
Of course, and that's where Zacco can help. So you mentioned you have a tool for clients.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this tool for clients, I guess it comes down to the central question about hybrid IP management. Do clients not wish to have a preference for their own IP management systems?
Well, I actually have spent many years in the IP software industry, so I know there are plenty of good software out there. But to be honest, not all organizations or companies needs or can buy or can maintain this software. I spoke to a head of IP at a scientific research center in Southern Europe just the other day, actually, and they didn't have their own software. And I asked, why don't you have that? And he said, well, we don't have time for that. We don't have resources. We rely on our external partner to provide this. We don't have to think about infrastructure, servers, or anyone docketing in the system or backups or anything. So for us, he said, this is the most cost-efficient solution. They were 3 people, the patent manager and 2 patent consultants, and they focused on their core business, which was sitting with the researchers, trying to find the IP in the research results, trying to raise awareness within the organization about IP, and also negotiating about the outcomes of the IP licensing or selling it or whatever the research resulted in. And that was their core business, and they didn't even have a paralegal. And I said, well, why didn't you, you're 3 persons, why don't you have a paralegal? And he said something that is really true, that it's hard to find good people. It's hard to find good paralegals because that's a really good profession. They are competent and skilled, and it's not easy to find them. And even if they were to find one, they said, we don't have the resources to train or to maintain on trainings and so on. That's kind of part of the package when we get these services from our IP partner. They will make sure that they are on top of things and the knowledge level is high. So he didn't see any problem with having the hybrid approach. It was really the best solution for them. And of course, it's easy for them to scale down and scale up. Some months they didn't have any work that they needed to buy from someone, and some months they maybe have the need for 2 paralegals. So, and that's very easy to adjust in that way. And of course, there are some challenges with having the hybrid approach and working this closely to the clients. But he said that the biggest challenge was finding a good reporting structure. And it was so important to be clear what they expected for the result and how this should be delivered. And of course, some kind of portal or tool where they at the fingertips could find and access the data, the relevant data from the company side. But when that was all done, that was, I mean, this model was absolutely the best for them, most cost and time efficient. I think you agree here. Yeah, you hear that all the time. Yeah,
definitely.
It does sound quite a flexible approach you're offering there, and helping the company to overcome its difficulties in that area. I'm really interested in these real world examples from your experience. Have you got any other examples to offer?
So I have some examples. Of course, we have many examples of companies that come for, small specific projects, large specific projects, such as things that are administrative heavily liftings. I mean, validations, it could be translations, it could be docketing. That's a typical area. But I think I have a very recent and interesting example that is a little bit different. So recently we onboarded this large pharmaceutical company, and it started off with, a small project where they needed help, and then it actually grew into, okay, what about replacing some of the paralegals? What about, can you also do this? Can you also do that? And then everything within traditional patent trademark services. And then after this OPSEC technology acquiring Zacco, I was at a meeting with them, and they was like, okay, this OPSEC, what is it? And they asked, can they do counterfeit surveillance? And I was like, yes. And suddenly it was like I could see his shoulder, It was certain that this was something that was on his table for a long time, that he really didn't have much competence in understanding what he was supposed to do. And actually it felt he didn't have the time. So it turned out that if there may be some in the meeting who knows already this, that as a pharmaceutical company, you need to be able to track your products. You have to, in order to ensure trust, compliance, you need to track your products. You need to. It's very important that you look at that you have online brand protection, so you understand, is there any fake home pages, social media, etc., etc. So suddenly what was a very traditional hybrid approach turned into something very different. And I think one thing I would like to underline is also that what we always do and what you as a client can demand is that you have one point of contact. It's not that no one else at Zacco can send on a reporting letter to this client. It's just that whenever you have a trouble, you have a pain, then you have your contact person and that knows the situation, so you don't have to start from zero every time. So that's a strength, I think.
Yeah, and it helps building the relationship. And when you build a relationship, you manage the expectations in a way. And that's kind of the key to success here.
Yeah, we also have another case study or an example, I would say, that where we started off as a small hybrid model with a little tiny administrative things that we helped out with. And the more, as I mentioned before, the whole thing is to build a relationship with the client and get a better understanding of what their needs are and things like that. So as the time went by, we got more trust and we worked closer and closer, and it actually eventually led to that we are now taking care of their whole trademark portfolio, both internally and externally. So we keep all the communication internally with their communications department, and we are like the spider in the web when it comes to the trademarks, because this is a technology company where the IP persons working within the IP only solely want to focus on patent and patent searching and patenting and protecting the technology as such. So we help out with the part that they don't have time for, of course. So that's another fantastic solution. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So we've got we've got pharma and tech covered there, and mentioned some big hitters in the corporate world earlier, in the likes of Facebook and Tesla. And the personal touch is again really coming through there in the hybrid approach. So there are a few case studies there demonstrate the flexibility of a hybrid management approach. Anything you'd like to add there, Agatha?
Yeah, I think that, again, of course, the quality itself is so important, and we know that the quality together with the flexibility will eventually lead to cost reductions for the client. If they trust their data and they know that they don't have to double check anything, everything is under control, of course, that will then they will spend less time and then, of course, have cost reduced. But another thing I would look for in a provider is, of course, the expertise availability. One day you would need help with one thing, and the other day you would need help with other things of other areas of IP, of course. And I think that, from my experience, I feel that IP is such an isolated function in a company. The persons working with IP are the experts, of course, and we need to keep track of all the different deadlines that is completely outside of the company, the normal company work, so to say. And another thing, but it's also very tied to costs, of course. And again, I think that us with the expertise can give, I have built, for instance, like cost tracking systems and also cost forecasting for our clients. For instance, I know that if we file a patent today and we want to expand that protection within 12 months, for instance, then I know that in a year we will have more costs related to this specific patent. And if we then again want to expand it and nationalize the patent, for instance, I'm talking about now, then in 2 years there will be a even bigger costs related to this specific patent. And if we can present that to management and they can take decisions on any cost forecasting, I think that's or at least it has been very, very appreciated. But again, cost, of course, is a very, very important thing, and cost awareness for the companies is a huge task to keep track of. But again, I think I need to emphasize that the quality is the most important thing here.
Always. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to remind the audience at this stage, there is the option to ask questions through the button below. We're coming up to that section of the webinar, so allow a few minutes at the end for questions from the audience, and it'd be really good to hear from you. But perhaps now we could move on to a bit of a recap of what we've discussed so far. Throw that open to Zacco.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I mean, we hope that this has given you a better understanding of what a hybrid model could look like, and if it would work for you. Obviously, it's not appropriate for all organizations. We understand that, but we hope that we have given you some inspiration. And if I should round up this, I think that what I would do is to have some meetings with some of the largest providers and to understand what are the services that they can provide and the implications of that, and have a discussion. And as we have said, quality, but quality in the sense that the capability of understanding what is it exactly that you need, and of course competence, I think is important in this regard.
Okay, that's
so
really
if I think, as you said, Phil, you can ask questions, but maybe some of you don't want to put the questions up here, then you are very welcome to contact us directly. via email or phone, and we can answer you. We'll get back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'm right in saying all the relevant contact details on the Zacco.com website. And you're happy to be contacted. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so thank you for listening today. We'll move on to the questions from the audience now. I'd like to start off with one here. How do you make sure that your patent attorneys and lawyers are up to date on all the latest technology? Big challenge.
Well, I have to say that many of our attorneys are on top of their profession or on their field anyway. We have a lot of PhDs and they have long master educations and so on. But we really try to work with knowledge sharing. We really try to put on time for studying and making sure that we are on top of everything. And where there is a new legislation coming up or there is something new coming up, we immediately put a project group with the responsibility to understand this new thing and also to spread that knowledge through the group, through all the offices in the group, in the countries actually. So this is something we're actively working on, and some of I think the biggest strengths of Zacco that we really focus on it.
Okay. In terms of Zacco's work, you also mentioned universities and research institutes earlier. What kind of work do you do with them? That's another question from the audience.
Yeah. So we do work with universities, both in Europe and in Asia at an organizational level, and we have partnerships with many of those. Some of this is through official partnerships where we assist with technological spin-outs, licensing agreements, etc. But some of the work that we do with universities also on a student-based level. So we really think that it's our it's a how do you say, it's a public, we need to support universities and to hire the knowledge about IP. So this is why we do lecturing at the universities. We also have programs, so about basic programs about IP patents, what to think about, but also the developments within IP. Then we have some of our colleagues that are mentoring and coaching students, and some incubators offering guidance and advice on how to secure their ideas, and other considerations, things they need to keep to consider. We actually have offices close to universities in different areas. And this is actually something that we think is very, very important. So to be close to innovation, to be close to those spin-outs, it's something that our employees, they really, really like that. So, I mean, in order for us to be a good place to be employed, this is part of that. You don't want to, sit in your office and just do patent applications. You want to be where the invention actually takes place. Every day you want to hear those. I actually had a nice lunch last week with one of our students. He comes from the Danish Technology University, and he's studying software. And it was, so energizing. He started just recently, and he already had a lot of ideas on tools and methodology within, the patent world. So this is really something that we think is extremely important.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation because, I mean, we find out what's new in the academic world, the new thinking, the new ideas, at the same time as they get some good feedback on IP and they will be more aware of IP, and that's good for the whole business.
Absolutely.
And it's especially good for us because they might come and join us later on. So here, if someone wants to send an application, we are always on the lookout for good staff, and many have started to write their thesis together with the consultant and have ended up here, and that is something really great, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go. Job opportunities to stay in the webinar as well. Added bonus. And I know we've got a few students in the audience today from various countries, so that's good to hear as well.
I see that there is also some questions coming in about fee schedules and hourly rates and so on. And not sure. Yeah, we can come back to those specifically in emails later on. We don't share it publicly in that sense.
No, but having said that, actually, it's not that we have a schedule and then we just this is actually I think the sense of the hybrid model. It's about what are your needs, what is it that you're looking for, and then we make an assessment. So it's not a standard product. It cannot be,
it's a standard price list. No. There's a saying I love, and it says, "One size fits nobody," and I think that is kind of
that. I mean, that is the core of it.
Absolutely.
That's the core of it.
I agree.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Again, it comes back to that tailored approach.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sure, understand that. We've got another question, which is very specific, in fact, addressed to Agatha in particular. You said you worked in-house. Why did you jump over to the consultancy side?
Well, I mean, in-house gave me a fantastic understanding of how IP works in reality. And actually, it was that way I came in contact with Zacco, of course. And Zacco, working with IP, Zacco is a very, very known, good name, with a very good reputation, of course. And I got in contact with some of the consultants here. We worked together. And then, I switched. And turns out it was a fantastic combination. I got the best of two worlds because I'm here at Zacco as a relationship manager. I keep contact with clients and I see new technology developments and everything that has to do with IP from this side. But I also am still a key account manager for my largest clients. So I still have one foot in the hybrid model that I really burn for. So yeah. I mean, no days are different at Zacco. Everything is, one day is one thing, the other day is another thing. So it's a fantastic combination, actually.
We are happy with you.
Yeah, we are. You're such a good colleague.
Yeah.
And again, I'd like to reiterate that you can contact Zacco directly as well through the website, and they'd absolutely welcome contact. And I think the university angle has generated a question here, a bit of interest. So we've got a question. Thank you so much for the great discussion. I'm a researcher with a strong interest in IP and wondering where I could find the information about training programs or courses. Are these free to other people outside of Zacco? Thank you.
It depends a little bit on what courses and so on, but I think we are always super interested to get in contact with students that have an interest in IP. So please reach out to us and we can discuss and revert to you.
Yeah, I think that. So we can look at what is in the pipe and we can see if it would be of interest to you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That makes sense. And I think I'm going to take it offline later. I'm interested to know about the contents of this lunchtime discussion you had, Bettina, last week. But, I don't think that's one for a public forum.
But it's. I mean, it is so important to also capture the younger generation because traditionally the IP law firm business has been very, very conservative, and I think the injection of young blood is crucial, and that's why we are so happy about all this cooperation with university and research centers of different kinds. So if we can mingle and so learn to know more students, we are very happy to do so.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely.
Great, and get in touch, like I say. Do we have any more questions from the audience? It doesn't look like it's at the moment. So again, if there is anything you'd like to raise after the webinar, then do get in contact with Zacco. We're coming to the end of our time, so I'd just like to thank Karin, Bettina, and Agatha for joining us and providing some really great insights. I find it fascinating. And thank you to everyone watching, of course. We hope this has been useful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
And just a reminder, you can visit the Zacco website at zacco.com, and that will give you all the relevant contact details. And as I say, they're very keen for you to get in touch. And the recording will shortly be available to watch back and share with others at managingip.com/events/webinars. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.